Welcome into the Spurge, everybody. Happy Monday. Hope you're staying out there, staying positive, staying blessed. I know some of you hate the Mondays. I love Monday. It's a day to go attack the week, smash your goals, and of course, we've got sports back. So it was a great weekend. So of course, you got to come into Monday. Super excited after being able to watch baseball, basketball, soccer, UFC, whatever you're into. It's back, and I'm here to break it all down. Welcome into the Spurge, everybody. I'm your host, Jordan Spurgeon. Be sure to follow me on Twitter. You can see it down below there at Spurge_. And if you're new to this Twitch stream, be sure to give me a follow. I'm doing a giveaway when I hit 30 followers. I'll be giving away a $25 Amazon card or cash via Venmo or Cash App, so you're definitely going to want to follow this channel. It's going to be a great sports community. I'm here every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Be sure to mark that on your calendars now. I got it marked on my calendar so that I show up and I bring you all the latest news from around the world of sports. So today we've got a pretty jam-packed show. We're going to talk about Major League Baseball, some updates surrounding COVID-19. We've got some Marlins players possibly messing up the entire season, so you're not going to want to miss that. And then, of course, we'll talk about the NBA bubble, some of the games that happened over the week, talk about some of the player breakdowns and see how the teams are shaping up, as they've got approximately 6 to 7 games left before the playoffs start for each team. And then, of course, my biggest topic of the day, my top 6 NBA duos within the NBA bubble. No Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, no Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving. Neither are in the bubble or healthy right now. So it's going to be interesting to name the top 6 NBA duos. You're not going to want to miss that. Stay tuned during the rest of this 35 minute show. But once again, for those of you just tuning in, I'm Jordan Spurgeon, host of The Spurge, right here on Twitch and BlazeRadioOnline.com. We'll soon be simulcasting on both at the same time. Once we get rolling into the semester, I am a student at Arizona State University at the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism. You can see my Sun Devil pillow in the background there, and I'm excited to bring you the latest in sports news. So we start with Major League Baseball. They had discussions about canceling the season. So last week, as I take a look at the notes here, because I want to make sure I get it right and not spread any misinformation out there. 20 Miami Marlins tested positive, 18 were players, 2 were members of the coaching staff. Because of that, 17 games have been postponed. The Marlins-Orioles series from July 27th through 30th. The Yankees-Phillies series from July 27th through 30th. Marlins National Series from July 31st through August 2nd, because the Nationals players opted not to play against the Miami Marlins. Then you've had the Phillies Blue Jays series postponed July 31st through August 2nd, and the Brewers Cardinals series July 31st through August 2nd. That one's not related to what happened with the Miami Marlins. 2 players on the Cardinals team, maybe more, tested positive for COVID-19. So I said the first 2 series were Marlins, Orioles, Yankees, Phillies. Because of that, and because it's a short 60-game stretch within a 66-game period, the Yankees and Orioles ended up playing an unscheduled 2-game series July 29th through 30th in Baltimore. So 17 games have been postponed due to COVID-19 so far. Players are opting out left and right now. We'll get to some specific players here in a minute, but it's very interesting to see how Major League Baseball has handled the situation. We've seen the NBA, the NWSL, the WNBA. We've seen multiple soccer leagues from around the world have 0 issues with COVID-19. The difference is they played in a bubble. Major League Baseball opted to shorten travel and keep them in the same sort of region, with the East teams playing the East teams, West versus West, Central versus Central, yada, yada, yada. But there's no bubble, and players have been free to do whatever they please. Obviously, the teams with some strong structure and some great players and great leaders have done a great job, making sure they basically just stay on the bus or plane in the hotel and go to the ballpark, and that's it. But then you have Miami, where there's no great leadership, and Derek Jeter is one of the part owners, and they go out to a strip club, and 20 of them test positive for COVID-19. The 2 coaches didn't go to the strip club, but now they have COVID-19 because 18 of their players decided to go to a strip club in Miami, one of the hot spots in the world, and now Major League Baseball is in the process of possibly being canceled because of this situation. So now they are trying to have some discussions. Rob Manfred has been talking to the MLBPA to sort of come up with some agreements. A few things to take away from what they're trying to do so they don't have to cancel the season is they will make up a lot of these games as best as they can by playing 7-inning doubleheaders. First time in Major League Baseball history where there are going to be doubleheaders for makeup games, but they are not going to be 9-inning double headers. So that's going to allow relief pitchers and starting pitchers to not have to stress their arms so much. So you get 14 innings to play 2 games, just to make sure that most teams get to 60 games. If not every team is able to get to 60 games by the end of the regular season, that won't be the worst thing in the world for Major League Baseball. Back in the 1981 strike that happened in the middle of the season, some teams had played 111, some teams had played 103, and so they determined the playoffs based off of winning percentage. So that's what Rob Manfred and Major League Baseball would do if not every team like the Marlins and the Yankees and the Phillies can get back to 60 games within this 66-day period. I believe we have about 55 days left. We're 11 days into the Major League Baseball season. Some teams haven't even played 7 games yet. So it's going to be interesting to see what Major League Baseball does. I want to hear your thoughts down below in the comment section. Should they cancel the Major League Baseball season? I'll tell you what I think later in the show if you guys comment below about whether or not they should cancel the Major League Baseball season. So I mentioned a few players have opted out recently because of what's going on with the Miami Marlins and COVID-19 and everything. The biggest name, the weirdest story, but not really weird in 2020 because of how everything shaped out with COVID-19. Yoenis Cespedes went missing yesterday on Sunday. He didn't show up to the park. They sent security to his room. All his belongings were gone. Everything out of the room. Cespedes was nowhere to be seen. His agent then calls the team in the middle of the game and says Yoenis Cespedes has opted out of the season, citing COVID-19 concerns and wanting to be healthy for his family. So everything that's going on with Yoenis Cespedes, remember, he's a person just like us, and he freaked out a little bit and decided to opt out of the season. You cannot blame Yoenis Cespedes for opting out because of COVID-19, especially when you see how Major League Baseball has handled it. There are multiple players coming out and saying, listen, Major League Baseball does not care what the player's health is. They just want to play their games and move on. That's an issue that needs to be addressed by Rob Manfred and the MLBPA because more players like Yoenis Cespedes will continue to opt out. Why would Mike Trout, who just left for paternity leave to see the birth of his first son, want to come back now after giving birth to a newborn and have to leave his wife and be away from COVID or be away from his family to go play baseball when there's a threat of him getting COVID-19, and if he does get an opportunity to see them, he might have it and not even know it, and the next thing you know, there's some real issues. There's a lot of issues going on in Major League Baseball, so I'm not sure whether or not they should cancel the season, but it has to be on the table, and if the players don't start doing a better job, if more teams like the Miami Marlins decide to start going out to bars or strip clubs or whatever it is, baseball has to be canceled, no championship, no nothing, it has to be the end of that. Now, I didn't make a lower third for this point, but I do want to say, because I am a football guy through and through, the NFL needs to learn from Major League Baseball's mistakes. There needs to be some type of bubble or multiple bubbles in the NFL where players are in one compact area, a few different teams, without having to travel and cause other issues. My proposal for the NFL is to create a West bubble, an East bubble, a North, and a South bubble. So maybe you play, the West teams all are in LA, the North teams are all in, I don't know, Chicago, the South teams are all in, I don't know, Tampa Bay, and the East teams are all in, I don't know, New York, for example. Just say that's how it goes, okay? Say that's where the bubbles are. You play games Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You stagger the schedule to where if one team has a Friday game, the next week they have a Saturday. If they have a Saturday game, the next week they have a Sunday game. After the Sunday game, they have a Saturday game. After the Saturday game, they have a Friday game. That way they're not going from 5 days to 7 days rest too much, and it's a slow staggering. You play 1 to 2 games each of those days on the field because in football you can't play so many games on the same field in one day. Kind of like in basketball where they're playing multiple games on the same court a couple hours apart. You can't do that in football because of field conditions. It would just be too risky for some of the players. So you could do that. You could still get in a 14 to 16 game season. You play each team 2 or 3 times, whatever it ends up being. Don't know all the specifics. And then after that, you create another bubble for the playoffs. Maybe in Atlanta or New Orleans or wherever they want to have it, you create another bubble for the AFC playoffs, another bubble for the NFC playoffs. You play those 2 playoffs. They meet in the Super Bowl. Tons of COVID testing. It's February or March at that point, depending how many times things get delayed. And then you have an NFL season. That, to me, sounds like the best plan for the NFL. Create bubbles in each individual division, the West, East, North, South. Playoffs, create an AFC bubble, an NFC bubble, and then you play the Super Bowl. That seems to be the best course of action for the National Football League. Let me know what you think down below in the comments section. Should the NFL create some sort of bubble, or should they say, listen, we're the NFL, we have the most money, we can do whatever we want, and you guys are going to watch and play no matter what? It's going to be interesting. A lot of players have already opted out, citing concerns that the NFL is not taking COVID-19 seriously, and they haven't done anything to protect the players. So NFL, if anyone from the NFL that has any sort of decision-making power happens to watch this, take notes from Major League Baseball. Do a bubble. The NWSL, the NBA, the NHL, soccer leagues from around the globe have all had very minimal number of COVID-19 cases. Most have had 0 COVID-19 cases because they did a bubble, and the bubbles work. The players are okay with being in a bubble. Major League Baseball players said, we don't want to be in Arizona and Florida. Understandable, it's hot. I'm in Arizona right now. It's 116. I couldn't imagine playing on spring training fields in 116. But because they didn't want to play in a bubble, Major League Baseball is now in desperate need of a change of a course of action, or else they will have to cancel the Major League Baseball season. Now let's talk about some NBA bubble opening weekend takeaways / stories. So the NBA bubble started last Thursday. We have the Pelicans and the Jazz. The Jazz beat the Pelicans in a close one. And the Clippers and Lakers. The Lakers beat the Clippers 103-101 on opening night. LeBron James, AD played well in those games. LeBron only had 16, but he had 7 down the stretch. He was leading the offense, doing all that great stuff. And the Lakers looked really, really good right there when the bubble started. But the biggest takeaway for me is Thursday and Friday, every game went down to the wire. This is the greatest thing that could have happened to the NBA as far as the start to the bubble season. So remember, each team's got 8 games to play throughout the bubble. Some have already played 2, some have only played 1. Some are playing their 3rd today, some are playing their 2nd today. It's going to be a lot of fun to see how the rest of the NBA bubble shapes up. Viewership is up, though, in the NBA. There's a lot of people that cite concerns saying they're getting too political with Black Lives Matter. Understandable. Sometimes you want your sports and your politics separate. I'm not getting into politics because that's just this isn't the platform for that. I don't care when it comes to this. I care in everyday life, but I don't care when it comes to this. But people are like, I'm not gonna watch the NBA. They're too political for me. They're leaning too far left. Yeah, that's not how it's happening. The viewership is up. TNT saw 3.4 million viewers on average during the Lakers-Clippers opening night game. That is over 120% better than any other average for their typical regular season games on TNT. ESPN's numbers were up, ABC's numbers were up, NBA TV's numbers were up. Every basketball game is being watched. That's all I did all weekend. I had some chores and things to do around my place, but all I did was watch the basketball. And I know there were many others that were doing the same thing. So the NBA is not in a bad spot right now. People want to say, oh, they're too political. Oh, we don't care about basketball right now. There's bigger things going on. Yes, some of that is true, but it doesn't matter. Basketball is back, and it's off to a great start. Viewership is through the roof in the NBA. I want to talk about the LA Lakers real quick. And by the way, this is Jordan Spurgeon, host of The Spurge, right here on Twitch.com. Also on Blaze Radio. You can find me on Twitter at Spurge_ for more sports content. I'm a writer for Primetime Talk Sports. So you can check out some of my articles there. Just had a Padres article come up today. We've got countless things going on in the sports world. But anyways, I'm right here on Twitch Mondays, Wednesdays, Friday, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I want to talk about the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, I picked the Lakers last week on Wednesday during my show to win the NBA championship against the Boston Celtics. So I told you, they beat the Clippers. Great game for them. They beat them by 2. However, Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell were both out for the Clippers. Those are 2 guys that, down the stretch, usually are able to help guard LeBron. And then Lou Williams is the closer on that Clippers team. He is the guy that makes the offense go in the 4th quarter. Kawhi and Paul George, 2 best players. Lou Williams makes that offense go in the 4th quarter. So Lakers narrowly escape a victory when they were up big. But a win's a win. You know, some people say, they only won by 2. That means they're actually the worst team. No, if you win, you win. It's that simple. You can't expect teams to just win games by 50 because, they're 2 of their best players are missing. They have to beat them by 50 or else the other team's just way better. That's not how basketball works. Injuries are part of the game. Move on with that. But then they follow up that game. They face the Toronto Raptors, and they get blown off the court, 107-92. Outscored big time in the fourth quarter. LeBron and AD combined for 34 points. And the Lakers shot 35% from the field. Now, there are a few positives and a few negatives to take away from this game. A few of the positives is, they were in the game until the very end of the game when Toronto pulled away. Despite the fact that LeBron and AD weren't doing much offensively. Despite the fact that they shot 35% from the field. Despite the fact that Kyle Lowry dropped 30 points on them because they had no answer for him. They had no Rondo to guard him. No one could guard Kyle Lowry on that team. Despite all of that, they were in the game until the very end when they let it go. So if you're a Lakers fan, you can't be too concerned about that. Now, another thing that you can't be too concerned about is there's no other team really besides maybe Milwaukee that has the size that Toronto can throw at you. Toronto has Serge Ibaka, Pascal Siakam, Marc Gasol. They're able to throw bodies to counteract what the Lakers do with Anthony Davis, Dwight Howard, JaVale McGee. So the Raptors are able to hang in there in the rebound game, which is something the Lakers have dominated pretty much every team all season long in. And so the Raptors, they're a better team this year than they were last year. Not saying they're going to be better in the playoffs without Kawhi Leonard, but the way they play, Nick Nurse is a hard team. They grind everything. They rebound the heck out of the ball on the offensive side. That is a really good Raptors team. Last week on the show, Gannon Hanavold, Vaughn Jones, 2 of my colleagues, both picked the Raptors to win the NBA championship, and I don't think it's that far-fetched after watching that game. So that's some of the positives for the Lakers there. I do think in a series against the Raptors, if they faced them in the finals, I think the Lakers would still have the advantage because in those games, you need to have a superstar to win a championship. I'm a big believer in that. Not many teams outside of the 2014-15 Spurs and the 2010-11 Dallas Mavericks won without having the better star power. Okay, but some of the negatives in that game. Well, LeBron has not looked good on the offensive side these first 2 games. He's looked very passive. He's not aggressive. I think he's trying to get guys going. He's trying to get Alex Caruso to do more. He's trying to get everyone to play better. He's trying to get AD the ball. He's trying to get Kyle Kuzma to take over as the third wheel. So I think there's a reason behind that, but LeBron has not looked that great. He's been phenomenal on defense. That's a huge plus. I forgot to even mention that in the positives. But other than that, he hasn't done much on the offensive side of the ball. So that's some concern there for the Lakers. The other thing is they turned the ball over a lot in that game. That's not something they can continue to do. They cannot overcome a ton of turnovers. LeBron's their point guard. Rondo's out until probably the second or third round of the playoffs. Caruso is really good. He's a spark plug for that team. But they have to limit turnovers. And my final negative from that game, they were down 13-0. You cannot go into a game against another title contender, even in a game where you have the 1 seed pretty much locked up. You cannot go into another game against a title contender and come out that flat that you miss your first 5 shots, you commit a couple turnovers, and you go down 13-0. Yes, they brought it down to only a 2 or 4 point deficit, I believe, at the end of the first quarter. But you cannot go down 13-0 and expect to win games consistently. That is something the Lakers will have to do a much better job of down the stretch. Another team, or 2 teams I want to talk about now, are another 2 title contenders, the Houston Rockets and the Milwaukee Bucks. They played each other last night. The Rockets won down the stretch 120-116. Prior to this game, the Bucks were 2-14-1 since 2013 in games where they led by 8 or more with less than 3 minutes remaining. The Rockets found a way to come back despite being out-rebounded 65-36. The Bucks scored 60 points in the paint while the Rockets scored 20. Now, the Rockets don't have size. Their biggest player in the starting lineup is the 6'7" forward Robert Covington, and PJ Tucker is 6'6". That's all of their size. Harden, Westbrook, Gordon when he's healthy, he missed the game. But it's working. This team is playing great defense down the stretch. Against Dallas in their first game, they held Dallas, who is the top scoring offense in basketball, when you look at a bunch of different numbers, to only 20 points in the fourth quarter. Luka Doncic couldn't do anything. So Harden and Westbrook stepped up the intensity. PJ Tucker took over. They have guys on that team that can play great defense, especially down the stretch. And when they shoot 61 threes like they did against Milwaukee and make 21 of them, I don't care who you are, you're not going to beat them. That's 63 points right there, just from the three-point line. You're not overcoming that. Now, I like the way this Houston Rockets team, I've tweeted it multiple times. By the way, follow me on Twitter, @Spurge_. You can see it there on the lower third. They're a dark horse to win the NBA title. I don't know if they can get past the Clippers. I don't know if they can get past the Lakers. But if they could beat one of the two and somehow the other team goes down, the Rockets end up in the Western Conference Finals, not in the face either of them, there's no reason why they couldn't win the NBA championship. They're better than any team in the East. They're the third best team in the NBA. Everyone talks about Milwaukee, who I'm going to get to in a minute, who has the best record in basketball. But to me, the top three teams are the Lakers, the Clippers, and the Rockets. It's not even a question mark. Those are the three teams most likely to win an NBA championship. In my book. If the Rockets were in the East, hands down, they'd be in the finals. They'd probably win. So that lack of size has really been beneficial for them when you look at the way they play. James Harden no longer has to be so ball-dominant and ball-centric. And now Russell Westbrook comes in on the left side, Harden on the right side, and the lane is always open for them. They drive in. You saw it last night almost every single time. Milwaukee, who does give up the most amount of three-point attempts and three-point makes in the NBA, it is the weakness of their team. They would constantly drive with Harden and Westbrook to the middle, and Harden and Westbrook would either finish and get fouled, or they'd kick it out and there'd be a wide-open PJ Tucker. That's a recipe for success for the Rockets. They hit the three-pointers, they win. Sometimes they don't even hit the three-pointers, and they still find ways to win. So this Rockets team is scrappy. Harden and Westbrook are on a mission, and I really think, I'm not saying they're going to win an NBA championship. I'm still sticking to my pick of the Los Angeles Lakers versus the Clippers in the Western Conference Finals, but this Rockets team in most years would be the best team in basketball. They are loaded. They can shoot the ball extremely well. They shoot the most three-pointers. That team is loaded. Now, on the other end of the spectrum here, the Milwaukee Bucks. They out-rebounded the Houston Rockets 65-36. 60 points in the paint to the Rockets 20. Giannis had 36, 18, and 8, and they still couldn't win the game. This is what I've been saying about the Milwaukee Bucks. Some people called me crazy when I said the Celtics will beat the Bucks. The Raptors could beat the Bucks. The Heat wouldn't, but could give them a run for their money. This team is so Giannis-centric, and even when Chris Middleton contributes, like he did last night, he scored 27. Him and Giannis combined for 63. This team has a hard time closing games. Giannis is not good enough to close games against great teams in the playoffs. Giannis is a phenomenal player, top 3 player on the planet. Gonna win his back-to-back MVP this year. He is not the guy that can win a title on his own. He's not a guy that's gonna get out of the East on his own. People like to say, oh, the East is easy. He should have no problem. LeBron made it to the finals 8 straight years. Giannis is not LeBron James. And, you know, to Giannis' credit, he does not have a superstar in Dwayne Wade or Chris Bosh or Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love. LeBron got there without them a couple of times, but still, he has Chris Middleton, who is a star in his own right, and, you know, in moments can play well. He shot and made 27 points yesterday. However, Middleton had 6 turnovers. The team as a whole had 20. This Bucks team has some issues, and yes, they are built to beat 29 out of the 32 teams in this league, hands down. They are better than those teams. But when you get to the best teams in the playoffs that can hit their threes, just like last year with Toronto, Fred VanVleet got hot from downtown, Kawhi Leonard, they were able to poke holes into the armor of the Milwaukee Bucks. That is the weakness of the Milwaukee Bucks. They give up a lot of threes. So when they face a team like Houston, a team like the Clippers, a team like the Celtics, who we saw get hot a couple nights ago against Portland, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown were lighting it up. Or even the Toronto Raptors. Any of those teams, if they get hot from 3 4 times in a 7-game series, the Bucks are not beating them. The Bucks cannot defend the 3, and they're not good down the stretch at closing out games. So like I said, I do not think the Bucks are the best team in the East. Yes, they have the best record. Yes, they're probably going to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. They are not coming out of the Eastern Conference. I think the Celtics and the Raptors both have a chance to upset them in the playoffs this year. But let me know what you think down below in the comment section right here on Twitch. I'm here on Twitch every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I want to hear your thoughts on the NBA bubble so far. How do you think this has been playing out so well? No COVID cases. The games have been great. Viewership is on average double than normal for regular season games, at least in the primetime games on TNT, ESPN, and ABC. So before I release my top 6 NBA duos, I do want to go ahead and just give you guys an update on the standings as things are currently playing out. So you can see here, Lakers, Clippers, Nuggets, Jazz, Thunder, Rockets, Mavericks, still the top 7 teams. All of them have clinched a playoff spot in the Western Conference. So that is set. That side of the bracket over there, 1 through 7 is set. However, the rest has become interesting. Remember, the Portland Trailblazers were the 9th seed. They've been playing great, by the way. Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum have been lighting it up. But they do have a loss already. And the Spurs have won 2 games. They beat the Grizzlies last night. The Spurs did. And they beat the Kings in their first game. So now they're there in the 9th seed. 2 games behind the Grizzlies. You can see there on the graphic, there's a play-in tournament for the 8 and 9 seed if they're separated by less than 4 games. So if you look at it, yeah, you got the Spurs right behind the Grizzlies, 2 games back. You got the Trailblazers, 2.5 games back of the Spurs. And then the Pelicans, who have lost both games so far, are now 2 games behind the 9-seeded Spurs. So are the Kings and the Phoenix Suns. So that's the battle right now because of the play-in tournament for the 8 and 9 seed. It's the race to the 9 seed because none of these teams are going to make it to the 8 seed. Unless the Grizzlies start losing every game and the Spurs or the Trailblazers can win out, the Grizzlies are going to be the 8 seed. So now it's a battle between the Spurs, Trailblazers, Pelicans, Kings, and Suns, who are all separated by less than 2 games to get to that 9 seed and force a play-in tournament. There's going to be a play-in tournament in the Western Conference. You can see the records there. There's no way not a single team finishes within 4 games of the Memphis Grizzlies, especially with the Grizzlies' schedule the rest of the way. So the Spurs are playing great basketball. The Trailblazers look really good. Pelicans not so much. The Kings, they're pretty much irrelevant. The Phoenix Suns, though, they're 2-0 in the bubble. They beat Dallas last night in a great game, outscoring Luka Doncic and the rest of those Dallas Mavericks. And then they beat the Kings pretty handily on Friday as well. So this Suns team, if they win out and the Spurs and Trailblazers, Pelicans, and Kings start losing a couple more games, Suns have a chance of making the playoffs. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but they definitely have a chance to make the playoffs. So that could be interesting to see. Every game in the Western Conference has meaning. We know the Lakers are going to be the 1 seed, but anywhere from 2 to 8, the seeding can change just like that. So the Western Conference is interesting. Moving over to the Eastern Conference, now you got the Bucks, still the 1 seed. They're going to be the 1 seed, 53-13. The Raptors, who are playing phenomenal basketball, 47-18. The Celtics are 44-22. The Miami Heat are 42-24. Pacers, Sixers, Magic, Nets, Wizards. Wizards, they're not going to force a play-in tournament here. They're just not going to force a play-in tournament here. So it'll be interesting to see how the rest of this NBA bubble shapes out. So those are the NBA bubble teams' records through the first weekend of the NBA bubble. Let me know what you think of these teams so far in the comment section. Be sure to follow me on Twitter as well. I'm excited to see how the rest of this NBA bubble plays out. I hope you are too. It's going to be a great time to watch all this basketball over the next couple weeks. I'm super excited. I hope you are too. Alright, now the moment we've all been waiting for, my top 6 NBA bubble duos. So I have to give a disclaimer before we start with number 6. There's no Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. There's no Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, because they're injured or they're not in the bubble. So these are the top 6 NBA duos in the bubble. This is the year of the duo. There's honestly 10 to 12 phenomenal duos of the NBA this year. But I broke it down to 6, the top 6. Might get some blowback here, but I want to hear from you guys as this is going on who your top 6 NBA bubble teams are. So we will start with number 6. The Milwaukee Bucks. I know I'm going to catch some heat for this one, having them so low. Listen, Giannis and Chris Middleton are phenomenal. They combine for 50.8 points per game. Their games complement each other when Chris Middleton is on. But listen, I don't trust Middleton in big games. 6 turnovers yesterday against the Rockets. Yes, he scored 27 points, but he had 6 turnovers. And in the playoffs, he has been known to come up short. Giannis is going to put up numbers, but can he overcome teams like the Raptors, like the Celtics, like the Rockets, like the Lakers, like the Clippers, who are able and willing to shut him down and tell other players to beat him? Can he find a way to overcome that? You saw it yesterday in the Rockets game, down the stretch, down by 2 points. Driving to the basket. Instead of going up, he decides to try to kick it out and he turns the ball over. Even with 2 guys, he is big enough and strong enough to go up. So yes, I love Giannis. He's going to be the MVP this year. I love Chris Middleton. He's a great player. But I have them at number 6 in my top 6 NBA duos. Now number 5, Luka Doncic and Kristaps Porzingis. They combine for 48.3 points per game. They're both unicorns at their positions. We've never seen a player quite like Luka. We've never seen a guy with the size 7'2" and the ball handling skills and the shooting ability of Kristaps Porzingis. Listen, the only reason why I have them so low, they're just young and need to grow together. This Mavericks team has been the best offense in all of basketball this year. A lot of that thanks to Luka Doncic really stepping up this season and being phenomenal, handling the ball and leading the offense there for the Dallas Mavericks. So I really like the way that they complement each other. I think they're going to continue to grow. I hope Kristaps signs a long-term deal, and these guys are going to be dominating in Dallas for the next 10 years. Don't be surprised if they end up with a title eventually. Once LeBron and the Clippers kind of age themselves out of championship contention, and same with the Rockets, the Mavericks could be one of the teams to beat in the Western Conference. I like what Luka and Kristaps are building down there in Dallas. Mark Cuban's doing a great job running that franchise. Number 4, we've got Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum, one of the best backcourt duos of all time. They combined for 51.6 points per game this season. Each of them sort of take turns carrying the team. If one has an off night, the other one tends to go off. Their defense is a little suspect. If they play against the Rockets and James Harden and Russell Westbrook, they're going to get exposed on defense. They're going to have their fair share of points, but they're going to get exposed on defense. That's been the biggest problem with this duo. Now the other thing is sometimes one of them comes up small in big games when if both of them could really dominate at the same time in the playoffs or have phenomenal games at the same time in meaningful playoff games, this duo would go a lot further than they have in the past. They're below 500 together. They're the only duo on this list that aren't quite at 500 or above 500 yet. But when you look at Damian Lillard, who, because Steph Curry is not in the bubble, is the best shooter in the bubble when you look at his range. He hits 30-footers like nothing. And then CJ McCollum, who's basically a Damian Lillard Jr., but has a little bit of different aspects to his game and is a little bit bigger as well. When you look at those factors, there's just no reason why you cannot have them at number 4 here on my top 6 NBA bubble duos. Number 3, the other duo I just mentioned, James Harden and Russell Westbrook. Now they combine for 62.1 points per game. They're explosive on offense. We're just not sure if they're sustainable in the postseason just yet. I am willing to give that sort of a caveat though. You look at the way they play. Early on, it was very clunky. Russ had to figure out how to play with Harden. Harden was still playing the exact same way he was playing during his MVP seasons and all those second place finishes. Now they've gotten rid of their big men. They play small ball. 6'7" Robert Covington's the biggest player in the starting lineup. And they allow them to both slash, almost taking turns, sometimes together, right and left, into the lane. Whoever has the ball, they're very good at kicking it out, or they'll take it, try to finish themselves, or draw a foul. So this duo is phenomenal together. We just saw them take down Milwaukee, despite the fact that this team was out-rebounded 65-36. They're phenomenal together. I think if it wasn't for the Lakers and the Clippers, they would have an easy shot at the title this year, but I just don't know if these two are good enough to take down the Lakers and the Clippers. Not on their own because they have some complementary pieces, but just as a duo, talent-wise, individual accomplishments, this is one of the top duos of all time on a basketball court together. And this is only their first season. I can't imagine what's going to happen over the next 2 or 3 as they continue to gel and mesh together. Number 2, I've got Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. Talent alone speaks for itself. They combine for 48.1 points per game. They're 2 of the best wing defenders and wing players in the NBA, probably 2 of the top 3 or 4 in the NBA. The only issue, they just haven't played enough games together yet, and sometimes they look out of sync. We saw the game against the Lakers on opening night. Down the stretch, LeBron James was somehow able to guard Kawhi Leonard and Paul George at the same time and force them to miss a last-second shot. How was LeBron James able to guard both of them at the same time? Because they just are a little bit clunky together. I think over time, Doc Rivers and Kawhi Leonard and Paul George will figure out how those two can mesh a little bit better than they have so far. But just on talent alone and defensive ability and the way they can shoot the ball from downtown, there's no reason why they are not a top 2 duo in the NBA. And finally, number 1, I think a lot of you could guess, LeBron James and Anthony Davis from the Los Angeles Lakers. They combined for 52.1 points per game. They're both top 5 players. I don't think that's a question at all. They built an instant connection to each other. Their games have been perfect for each other. LeBron feeds Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis lets LeBron do his thing, and they both put up big numbers. Anthony Davis leads the team in scoring and rebounding. LeBron leads the league in assists, and he's right there in scoring as well. This is the best fit LeBron has ever had. Dwayne Wade was his best friend. Great player to play with. Kyrie Irving, phenomenal player to play with. Him and AD are the best fit of LeBron James' career for duos, and they are the top duo in the NBA. Anytime they step on the court, they are the two best players. Not saying that Anthony Davis is always better than Giannis and Kawhi, production-wise, but talent alone, you would have these two as the top 2 players on any NBA court at any given time. So there you have it. Those are my top 6 NBA bubble duos. Let me know what you think down below in the comment section. Am I crazy for the order of these duos? Should Kawhi and Paul George be first? Should Giannis and Chris Middleton be higher? Do Kristaps and Luka Doncic actually deserve to be on this list? Let me know what you think down below in the comment section. We're going to go ahead and run through this one more time with the full screen graphics there. Once again, those are the records of the NBA bubble teams, but hey, solo production here, so didn't really need that. Let's hide that graphic. I've got Giannis Antetokounmpo and Chris Middleton as the 6th best duo in the NBA bubble as things stand right now. Luka Doncic and Kristaps Porzingis at number 5. 2 unicorns at their positions, phenomenal this year. Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum at number 4. One of the best backcourts of our lifetime. James Harden, Russell Westbrook, first year together. They're at number 3. Now that the team plays the way they play, they're an even better duo than we could have ever imagined when they first traded for Russell Westbrook. Kawhi Leonard and Paul George are at number 2. 2 of the best wing players in the NBA. Then you have LeBron James and Anthony Davis. When they step on the floor together, they are the 2 best players on any NBA court in any given game. So there you have it. Those are the top 6 NBA bubble duos. Once again, let me know what you think down below in the comment section. If you're enjoying this show, be sure to give my channel a follow. I'm doing a giveaway when I hit 30 followers. You'll see sports content like this every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 12 p.m. Eastern Time. And if you fall somewhere in the middle there, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, whatever it is, that's what time I'm on every single Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Let's go to the outro. So there you have it. That's going to wrap up today's show. Phenomenal show today. I thank everyone that did tune in to the show for tuning in. I really appreciate everything. Like I said, feel free to comment anytime during the stream. We can interact a little bit. I want to get your feedback on my sports takes. Sometimes just being a talking head is something that isn't enjoyable to listen to. I want to interact with you guys. So definitely, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm right here on Twitch, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you like this energy, you like my takes, if you hate these takes and you want to be outraged and comment on them, be sure to subscribe to the channel. It's definitely worth checking out. Follow me on Twitter as well, @Spurge_. Lots of great sports content out there. Writing, podcasts, this show, YouTube. I do it all. I'm a sports journalist, sports journalism major at Arizona State University. Go Sun Devils! I didn't even talk about ASU basketball today and the big news that came out, so we'll talk about that on Wednesday. So that's going to wrap up today's show. I'm Jordan Spurgeon, host of The Spurge, right here on Twitch.com. Have a great rest of your Monday. It's the best day of the week. Attack your goals. And, of course, watch some baseball and basketball because sports are back, and we cannot be happier.